for the next decade's journey for social sector in India. And to moderate this session, first of all, let's put your hands together and let me welcome the renowned celebrity writer, Mr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. Everyone, put your hands together and welcome Mr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. Come on, everyone. Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai is a distinguished academic author, a leadership consultant, and of course, very well known for his expertise in management and organizational behavior. He's the author of the best-selling series. Everyone, I think he deserves a big round of applause for all the contributions and for all the significant guidance that he has given through Chanakya series. Ladies and gentlemen, as a prominent speaker and an educator, Dr. Pillai is dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their fullest potential. And we are really happy that, sir, you will be moderating the session with us. We also have other panelists who will come and join now. If I may have the privilege of having Mr. Mohan Patil to please come ahead and join us on the panel. Mr. Mohan Patil is an experienced HR professional with an MBA in Human Resources from Pune University and an executive MBA from IIM Bangalore. With 22 years in HR and industrial relations, he specializes in change management, talent development, and strategic workforce planning. Really excited to have you, Mohan sir, with us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put your hands together and welcome our next panelist, Padma Shri Shyam Sundar Paliwal. Let's put your hands together and जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत करेंगे Padma Shri Shyam Sundar Paliwal, who's a renowned social activist from Pipalantri village from Rajasthan. He was awarded Padma Shri by the President of India for the social service in 2021. And sir, we are really glad that you are with us today evening. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have our next panelist. Let's put your hands together and welcome Mr. Crispino Lobo. Can we have the pleasure of having Mr. Crispino Lobo, who's a leader in sustainable development, known for his pioneering work in community-led watershed and water resource management. He played a very key role in the Indo-German Watershed Development Program and co-founded the Watershed Organization Trust in 1993. With degrees from Harvard Kennedy School and the Gokhale Institute, he has authored 12 books. Everyone, such great knowledge, and we are going to experience all that knowledge comes, for all of us when he speaks. So with that, I think we are all set for this panel discussion. And before I hand over the session to Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, if I may request, sir, you take over the mic, and if you could share your thoughts, share your, views on the 10th Foundation Day of Y4D Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, the moderator of the session, Dr. Radhakrishnan. Everyone, put your hands together.
Thank you, Namaskar. First time I came to know about Y4D was from Hong Kong. Abhay sir was thinking we should take it global. It is already global. I remember I had gone there for some speaking assignment, and I came to know, okay, there is an organization called Y4D. Aapko pata hai kya? Shashi Bhushan, one of my friends, and he connected me to Brijesh, and of course I got connected to Prafulji, Shwetaji, and since then it has been a family. And today I had a problem. I'll tell you the problem first before I start moderating. Around a few days ago, I got a call from Brijesh ji, aapko aana hai. Family mein invitation nahi hota, information hota hai. And then Shwetaji also came, we had some discussions and all. Aap aa rahe na, aap bhi aana hai. And suddenly I said, okay, I'm in Cochin. And as Abhijit was telling, I'm a professor of practice there in the Chinmaya Vishwa Vidyapit. Thoda lectures वगैरह खत्म हो गए. And I said, 27. And then my wife says, why did you commit without asking me? Of course, nobody can do anything without asking their wife, right? Now, what's so great about it? I'm coming back. It's a Sunday. That's okay. But it's also our wedding anniversary. तो फिर मैं ब्रिजेश को फ़ोन करके टालने की कोशिश कर रहा था, नहीं सर आप आ जाओ। टुडे मॉर्निंग आई स्टार्टेड 2:30 फ्रॉम कोचिन। घर गया, थोड़ा बीवी को मनाया, गिफ्ट दे दिया, फिर बोला कि सी रिमेंबर दिस 22nd ईयर ऑफ आवर मैरिज, इट इज 10 years of Y40. So it's a double dhamaka here. We are ending 2 digits. Double. So then the reason I'm telling you this, friends, is that I've been part of the journey for so many years now, and what I can tell you is that my concept of an NGO changed completely. And I'll tell you the reason why. Over the years, I've been, understanding the work and being part of the work also. But I can tell you something. अमीर देश में भी गरीबी की सोच नहीं होनी चाहिए. Very important factor. Because a lot of people think, when you look at a word like NGO, of course, everybody knows the full form, non-government organization. जो गवर्नमेंट काम नहीं कर सकती, because गवर्नमेंट के पास भी बहुत सारी limitations है, the scale they have to manage, so they partner with what is called NGOs. But are we looking at an India that was 75 years ago, 77 years ago, or are you looking at the India which is going to be the next future after 100 years? And that is why whenever we travel abroad, I come to know that, ये सोच बहुत ज़रूरी है. It is not just in some, छोटा मोटा काम कर लो. I'll share 2 instances. One was the first time I met Sudha Murthy ji, and she was discussing Infosys Foundation. All of you remember? Before now, of course, Rajya Sabha, and of course, author. She told me something very interesting. Our funds are allocated for 2 reasons in Infosys Foundation. One is to support the marginalized society, which requires funding also, education, healthcare. But there's another sector which requires more funding, the intellectual developed community. If we don't fund research in this country, how can we grow this country? How can we go to space? How can we go in geopolitics? And I had the opportunity of visiting her college in Hubli, and that time I saw what is called startup, almost 10 years ago. So this attitude that we are going to be a developed nation. So can we be part of that journey? And Praful ji also, share some figures कि अगले 10 साल में हम लोग कहाँ होने वाले हैं. The second instance is a movie called as, very famous movie, Oscar-winning movie called Forrest Gump. आपने देखा है? उसमें एक बहुत बड़ी scene आती है, but many people miss it. In fact, when I ask people, they miss that point only. Forrest Gump is a runner. Of course, he's done so much for the country. जैसे यहाँ पे हमारे पास 2 पद्म श्री हैं. But he also requires social support. And you must have seen the person keep running, and one day he comes home. And he opens a mailbox, physical mailbox, and he finds a letter. I don't know how many of you have actually seen that scene. अगर आपने नहीं देखा है तो वापस देखिए. I said, he finds a letter, and the letter says, lifelong, you don't have to worry about money. Keep continuing what you've done for the country. And I just wrote, कौन है लड़का? नीचे सब साइन किया होता है. And I saw this second time, I came to know it is signed by Steve Jobs of Apple. Now maybe it's a fictional story, but the idea is that there's a culture which says that if you're good at something, we'll support you. And let me tell you, I think we have come to a mature stage in India where we say, of course, we see all the people working for the underprivileged to get them to the equity level. Yet, let us not forget that we have talent to support. Research funding to take, to different levels of a society. I'm not supposed to be a speaker, but I'll speak one important point which is very close to my heart. And that is basically the concept of spirituality in social work. I have done my PhD and my work is been Chanakya. He wrote Arthashastra, right? Economic development, all parameters are doing well for our country. We are at the right place at the right time, all that we know. I remember when I started studying Chanakya's Arthashastra, I went to my spiritual guru. I have been part of Chinmaya mission since my childhood. And I went to Swami Tejivanand to seek his blessings. Arthashastra padhna hai. And he stopped me. Arthashastra padhne se pehle, Samaj Shastra padho. If you want to understand economics, you have to first study social sector. That's why in the academic world it's called socio-economics. जिसने समाज को नहीं समझा, उसने अर्थ को नहीं समझा. And he told something very interesting. हमारे देश में कल्पना है कि the highest achievement is moksha, right? सब होने के बाद मोक्ष प्राप्त करेंगे, and that is the ultimate. But interestingly, there is something after moksha also. मोक्ष तो अल्टीमेट होता नहीं, मोक्ष मिलने के बाद भी समाज के साथ काम करना है. So what do all the saints do? In Maharashtra, where we are right now, we have, Gyaneshwar and so many saints of Maharashtra. They came back to serve the society. And the technical word in Sanskrit that comes is, in Bhagavad Gita, Loka Sangraha. They don't require anything for themselves. Yet they come back and serve the society to lift the people, not only economic standards, but also spiritual standards. Therefore, thank you, Prabhuji, and all the leaders over here who are going to be supporting and part of India, which is going to be very different. I'd like to stop here and start my moderation by quoting chapter number 3, verse number 21 of Bhagavad Gita. Yad yad acharti shreshtaha tat tat deve taro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastan anuvartate. As the leaders do, we are all sitting here, the people will follow. Lots to learn from the other parts of the world also. हम अकेले बढ़े तो क्या बढ़े, साथ में बढ़े तो कुछ बात हुआ. So think big and at least start small. Thank you so much.
Sir, if I may now request you to start the panel discussion.
So रोल चेंज हो गया, अभी सुनना है. When Brijesh ji told me you have to moderate, बोला बिल्कुल घर पे कुछ भी काम चलेगा. And I realized that I am actually sitting with great experts. Audible? So Brijesh sir, don't worry, आपको questions दे देंगे हम. Many people don't know that before I got interviewed, actually I have done interviews on radio channels also. But I will be very clear on this. I will not stick to the questions because each of them I know personally now are stalwarts in their own fields. So what I'm going to do, given 1 hour, we'll do 2 parts. Definitely ask them the questions that we have. Yet, I want you to be ready with your questions. So before I start, and all the panelists have been already introduced, friends, the 10-year journey that we're going to go ahead with is going to be definitely an economically different journey. I don't think we're still complete with Roti Kapda Makan. We still have a long way to go to many sectors. Yet, it's going to be very different because there'll be one part of the world which is ready to do social impact. Other people require social impact. So what I'm going to do is that each of the panelists, I'll be asking a couple of questions. And of course, I want you to get involved also. तो पहला जो प्रश्न है मैं हिमांशु जी से पूछूंगा. So it's going to be simple, he's been doing a lot of work and been involved in this for a long time. Now, if you look at public policy, so public policy, if you look at it, it's not just on paper, but we actually want the policy to be made, impactful in the groundwork. So the first thing is that how do we look at, partnership, maybe with the government and public policy, not only on paper, but actually implementation.
Good. Thank you. Am I audible? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pillai. I'm Himanshu Pedarshi. I lead Public Affairs, Communication, Sustainability for Hindustan Coca-Cola. And to your question, how to integrate public policy in collaboration with the government to create an impact to the community. So, our understanding has been always that first thing is how to get aware about the problem which is there in the society. So awareness is the first milestones which we need to do, and for that we need to do a primary survey, secondary survey of the community, of the country, of the global data points in order to analyze those things. The second is acknowledgement of those things, acknowledgement of whatever things you have been aware, and see that what is the existing infrastructure present in those countries. For example, I'll say as Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, we could able to make an impact last year to 750,000 populations across geography. And the areas have been, is not just a CSR expenditure, whereas the areas have been first in the women empowerment. Because the global landscape, the country landscape, everybody talks about the women equality, women equity in the financial world. So women empowerment is one thing where we have trained 25,000 women into financial literacy and digital education. And how it has evolved, again, awareness of the country's agenda, even though in the G20, Women 20, you must have read about the financial literacy and digital education, Prime Minister Modi ji's focus on the financial empowerment to the women. So again, understanding the ecosystem makes you more visible and more understandable about the policies, what you are doing. The second, acknowledgement of whatever things you are doing, you know. The third is assimilation. Assimilation of yourself as a corporate, as an NGO, and as a policy makers into the ecosystem. And how do you assimilate? Because when we start reaching out to the government agencies, those are second intervention what we did is into sales and marketing. So we trained 25,000 youth into sales and marketing. And then we approached the government to give credits for those university students who are undergoing this training. So this is an advocacy of public policy advocacy to the government to see that there is a merit in the curriculum which you have designed in partnership with those state governments to create a conducive environment where the students will be understanding something which will be beneficial to them. You know, the third thing what we have done is more about creating infrastructure, and that too again with the help of the policy makers. Wherever we have gone, we understood the need and we spoke to the policy makers. And then now, if you read about the Andhra Pradesh skill development policy or the new recently launched Andhra Pradesh policy, they have recognized circular economy and a skill development towards clean energy. So that is again which the corporates have told that the companies are committed towards sustainability and the ESG is coming to the future. But how you are creating that ecosystem in the country for the youth to get trained about the clean energy. And then Andhra Pradesh government has brought this new policy to develop youth into the clean energy internship. Similarly, PM internship has come because people are committed towards giving employment to their students, but they are not that much employability skills are not there. So then PM internship has launched, like, you know. So these are the things where you need to design well, but first of that, you need to understand the global landscape. Then you have to design some certain programs, deliver to the government, and then you can do a policy advocacy and influence the policy decision so that it should be a win-win project for everybody, like, you know, for the community, for the corporate, as well as for the country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In fact, मेरे मन में हमेशा एक प्रश्न आता है, as leaders of the corporate world, चाणक्य spoke about a very interesting problem of a leader. उसे कहते हैं धर्म संकट. At one end, you have to look at the corporate, parameters of success, profitability, productivity. On the other side, it's a social impact. So, how do you generally look at balancing these two factors? Both are important.
You know, corporate always comes from a country. So the commitment towards country is the first and foremost for every corporate. And that's what as a corporate you have been doing. So you are always a part of the country and you are always a part of the community. So always the intention of a corporate should to create a long-term impact to the community, and that's what there is no dharma sankat into it, because you are not doing something with a vested interest. Instead you are doing something for the community where you are living. Life is short. So you are all, everybody has a threshold, everybody has a lifespan. So there, whatever impact you are creating to the community will be remembered as a good corporate. Recently I'll tell you a story that in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh, there is a school, government-run school, where you have 1,000 girl child studying in that school, but they were not having any digital class boards. So when we identified this need, we provided couple of digital class boards which will bring equality of education among the community. So similarly, you need to understand, introspect, and have those commitment to collaborate with the community.
One last question from my side to you before we move to other panelists. Sir, you work in a multinational company. It's having global impact, and you spoke about specific communities in that country. Do you see the kind of a social impact that we do in India is different from the other countries of the world?
It all depends, on the country need. Like some of the country, they have certain other need, whereas in country like India, we have a different need. And especially, this India is made of many countries. So you have different need when you go to the rural part of India, which is Bharat, and whereas when you will go to the urban part of India, like for example, again I'll tell you, one of our priority has been access to safe drinking water. You have access to water all across in India with the Har Ghar Jal Yojana and everything, but access to safe drinking water is still not there. So for that, we partner with Y4D, and then we have set up multiple water ATMs, water RO to the school as well as for the community to create them access to safe drinking water. Whereas this access to safe drinking water is not a common issue in all the countries. So similarly, you have to understand the country well in order to design your program well and to create an impact well.
Thank you, because as you rightly pointed out, India is not one country, it's multiple countries put together. Because what could be a Maharashtra problem could be different from a Kerala problem, could be different from maybe a Madhya Pradesh problem. So finally, it's about customization also. Thank you, sir.
So just to add one more thing, like, in one of the areas in southern part of India, the program, like again Andhra Pradesh. So there is no need of digital class boards in any of the schools because government provides those digital class boards. Whereas the need is, like in Srikakulam when we went there, the need is to provide solar light to the fishermen villages. So the need varies across India, across regions, depending on the community.
Thank you so much for customizing social impact. So I'll move on to our next esteemed panelist, and we'll be asking Manish sir. In fact, I'm so happy that many of us, even though from HR generally know about it, a specific role, Chief Sustainability Officer. I mean, that's a new term that I have came across just a few years ago. And as you rightly pointed out, sir, we have a concept called ESG, and it's big impact globally. Working on a concept like ESG, and as a Chief Sustainability Officer, what's on social impact, sir?
Well, thank you very much. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you. So, ESG, if you were to, for corporates like us, under the E umbrella, we have issues like water, we have issues like energy and waste management. So those are the three that we focus on. And basically what it means to say is, in water, we try to minimize the usage, we reduce the wastage, and whatever we consume, it drains out somewhere, and we make sure that it's recycled and reused where it can be. And also, whatever we can't recycle, it goes as a waste, so we need to replenish that. So that is basically what we do in water. Under the social part of it, there are people within the organization and there are people outside the organization, and we need to focus on both. We try to focus on their development and their growth. And on the G part, it's nothing but making sure that whatever we do, we transparently, honestly, and timely inform all the shareholders and the stakeholders of what we do and how we performed on various parameters. So having said that, on the just repeat that question for me, please.
So your impact as sustainability officer,
yeah.
The edges.
So these are the parameters that we work on, and we make sure that all these align to the company's strategy, and we manage it like a P&L. Sometimes CSR, and some of it falls under CSR, and people say that CSR shouldn't be treated as profit and loss, but we do invest money in development of people, and we make sure that there is an impact that we make on the money that we spend in development. And this profit is not to the organization, but the profit is to the people. So that is how we view it.
Thank you, sir. Audible? Thank you. In fact, thank you, sir. You use the right word, stakeholders. And again, you have multiple stakeholders, be it shareholders, be it employees of the company, it could be communities. So do you think that there is a big gap between what we call the rural and the urban impact that you've been working on for the development?
Well, there's a huge impact. There's a huge difference. And the fact is that within the country, India, like you said, different states, not every state is performing at the same level. And within the states, not all districts are performing at the same level. and within the district, all the blocks are not performing at the same level. Some have it, some don't have it. So I think, the effort is to reduce the gap as much as possible. And in the introduction, I was reading the GDP of India has gone up from 2 billion to 3 billion, aiming to go to 4 billion and 5 billion and 6 billion. And similarly, the per capita income also seems to have gone up. But, when we go to rural areas, I don't see that. I personally haven't seen that. I think the poor continues to be poor and the rich continues to be the rich. So I think, the effort is to minimize the gap as much as possible. I also read some data, and don't hold me to this. It says that 80% of the wealth is with about 5% of the people in the country. So that being that, I think, the effort is to reduce the gap as much as possible and make sure that, those who are deprived have those so that, there is an equal participation and equal representation.
Thank you, sir. So, as a policy maker at that level, you are running a huge organization. Do you see the employees getting involved in this kind of activity?
Look, they do voluntarily, but that is not their core job. The core job is of people like us who have been employed to do this. They spend their weekends. We make sure that they don't spend their weekdays because, they have been employed, they're paid for something else that they need to do. And if they didn't do that, probably we wouldn't have the money to do the community development.
Thank you. I know of a company where, as you rightly said so, that maybe Monday to Friday is employee productivity from the company's angle.
Correct.
But Saturday, Sunday, brownie points, and the company actually say, if you are ready with some budgets, we'll fund you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
We do take care of the transport, we do take care of their food, we do give them some stars and certificates and some rewards, but we don't use their services from Monday to Friday.
Because company has to make sure the profit is also there and performance.
Yes.
We'll come back to you again, sir. So let me move on to Lobo, sir. In fact, community-centric approach. That is something with your extensive background in rural development and climate resilience, what strategies do you believe are essential for NGOs to effectively engage local communities in the next decade, almost the next 10 years?
Okay, so I'll first lay down the context of my comments. So we work in rural India, and that too particularly in rain-fed rural India. That means villages which are often facing drought. Number one, where the environment is rather degraded. So you won't see beautiful trees, you'll find often barren hills. And where by and large the chief main characteristic that hits you is poverty and hardships. So this is the context in which we work. We've been working, this organization or the Watershed Organization Trust has been working the last 32 years in this kind of context. Now there, the greatest constraint is water, availability to water, and the only source of water is rain. And you have only 4 months to catch that rain, and actually the Indian monsoons, rainfall that can be harvested, which is useful, what they call effective rainfall, falls for at most about 45 days in those 4 months. And in drought-prone areas, you're lucky if you get 15 days in that year of what is called harvestable rainfall. Now that's the constraint and the challenge you face. So if you want to make a difference in the lives of those communities, you need to capture rainwater wherever it falls, across the landscapes and the catchments in which those people live, which means it has to be a full community effort. Individuals by themselves cannot address this issue. Why? Because you're dealing with land and water. And these are assets which belong to individuals as well as to a community. So to transform them such that they become catchments to harvest rainwater, you need to engage all or key members or groups of that community. But to engage a community, you have to ensure that every member in that group, or at least most of them, feel that they have something to benefit, that they know that they will benefit, and that they know what is expected of them to achieve the goal that you wish to achieve. So representation and giving a voice to people to articulate what they want, to share their difficulties, and to have a platform in which they themselves can design the solution. That's very important. unless they design the solution to their problems, they will not own it. If they don't own it, they will not put in their best effort. And if they don't put in their best effort, you can be 100% sure that once the project is over, that project also closes down. So many investments have been made. They deliver benefits as long as the project is running, and when the project is over, it's also over. The reason is, unless they develop stakeholdership, they feel that they're part of their effort, it's their own, they will not maintain it once project is over. So that's the first thing, building up stakes, building up ownership. But how do you do it? And that's the challenge of actually mobilizing a community where each member feels that he is part of an exciting journey to transform his life. Therefore, he has to have ownership of the process. Number two, a key element is transparency. Everybody must know what he will get, if he will get anything, what are the conditions to get that, and what is the pathway to achieving it. People are not necessarily interested in freebies. They are willing to work for it. They are willing to contribute. Even a poor person is willing to contribute. If not money, the labor. If not labor, for whatever reason, his participation in the process. So never underestimate the demand and the need to get people to engage by actually contributing. But for that, they must know that on the table is everything that they can achieve. So transparency and accountability. If there is no accountability, sooner or later, people start getting disaffected, then conflicts arise. Third, the person or the community or the NGO or the agent that is catalyzing and mobilizing this community must be seen as an honest broker. If they have doubts on your integrity, or if they feel that you're gaming the system and not being an open, transparent, and fair arbitrator, then sooner or later factionalism arises and then conflicts arise. A program comes apart once conflicts arise. Fourthly, when you deal with a community, you have as many views as there are people. That means you're dealing with universes in a way. And the challenge is to bring these different views, some in direct conflict, some differing only, but hold them together in dialogue. We do not have the luxury of closing a dialogue. We do not have the luxury of marginalizing any voice and shutting it. If a community has to go forward, you have to have on the table all the voices, and they have to be kept in a dialogue of respect and positivity. Because when we converge our efforts, then we can get somewhere as a community. It is said that a rising tide can lift all boats. You need to catalyze the creative potential of a community, of all its people, so that you create a dynamic towards going towards the future. We are talking of the future. But the future can only be achieved by a group or a community that has decided that that's where we want to go, this is how we will get there, this is what we will contribute, and this is what we need. It's an all of community effort of convergence towards a commonly shared goal. For that, you need the collaboration and the contribution of all key stakeholders, not only of that community, but of the corporate sector, of government, of educational institutions, of any and everybody who can contribute to taking us forward. So collaboration, cooperation, and a spirit of positivism is key for driving change that gets somewhere and lasts over time. With regard to scaling up, I'll conclude very shortly with the second question you had asked, right?
In fact, I just want to ask you, sir, also, since you have been so actively involved in climate action, especially in the rural area, what do you expect from, number one, the corporate world, and anything from the government itself?
Yes. So today we are working in about 8 states. Just giving this as a factum to tell you what I'm going to say. We grew out of a very small program. We had only 10,000 rupees when we began. And when we ended the Indo-German program, it led to the government of India setting up the Watershed Fund, which today has taken that program to over 19 states in the country and helped over 3 million people and over 2 million hectares of land to be transformed. So in other words, if you want to scale up what works at the micro level, you need to bring government on board. And government wants and does look forward to such scalable and proven methodologies to make a difference. So in 1999, the Government of India set up the Watershed Fund. And again, in 2015, the National Adaptation Fund, which is at the Ministry of Environment and Forest, we also contributed to that. You need to bring facts of the ground down to up to the policy makers as well as decision makers, for which you need to participate and collaborate in policy dialogues, in discussions in government embedded fora, and these views with proven data, which is applied research being brought to government, has to be placed before government. One last, it's not enough. Government must be involved in the implementation of these activities at the ground level. You see, government doesn't sit only in Delhi or Mumbai. It is at the district level, the block level, tehsil level, down to the village. So convergence of all administrative and governmental departments and processes is important if activities that work are to be scaled up successfully.
Thank you, sir. In fact, this is joke about government, and all the people sitting over here are working very closely with the policy level. But block development should not become block for the development. I'm sure you're working very closely with the authorities also. I would like to say that we are actually equal partners for scaling up. Any positive instance you like to share when you're working with the government and actually it really helped you to take your work to the next level?
Yes. No single actor, particularly if it's an NGO, can address all the needs of a community. See, you have needs from education to health to so many. You don't have the skills. Nobody can. But government has many of these things that you can't do. So when you're doing this, you bring them in. What you don't have, government can provide. What you can do better, government can allow you to do that, you see. So a convergent effort in which government, corporates, educational and technical and scientific organizations, and good civil society, if you come together, you can make a difference in a shared program.
Thank you so much, because it's very important as a mindset. Soch ki baat hai. Basically, can we look at government as a partner rather than a problem? And I'm sure there are a lot of people you can, on the dais and off the dais, who can share the example that this is a national agenda, not just my NGO agenda. So I'm sure there are lots to go on. We'll hear more from you, sir. But I want to move to Patil, sir. Before I start, congratulations. He got an international award for the work he's doing. So before I start, I'd like to ask him about the award first, because that's directly connected to the work you're doing.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, so first of all, thank you, Y4D, calling me here for this very respective dais. Dr. Pillai, we got this award, for this skilling, the women empowerment. Recently, we got this award through VDMA. It's a German organization. And that award, luckily, same premises where we are sitting today, with same people, because we work with Y4D, Mr. Praful Nikama and team. And there we did the skilling program for the tribal community, in Chakan region, where we are, working with them for skill empowerment, skill development. And there were 450 girls we trained in last 2 years' time. And this all girls got employed, employed into various industry in Chakan region. Employability is not a big, I will say, a point, but they're coming from the tribal village. So now, keeping the mindset change for the parents to coming from village to, मतलब गाँव से उनको शहर में लेके आना, उनको रखना, women safety, women empowerment, and we closely work with Y4D, and we do completely review that whether the girls are safe, they are not, exploited, they're not to be, given some kind of treatment with them. And then this award we showcased to a global platform. And with this, we got this award first time for 450 girls to be employed. And second award, second topic which was covered in this year my company called KSB. And we adopt 150 girls child across the country. So the 150 girls will be get complete scholarship from my company, around 25,000 rupees per year. And after 3 years, they will be coached, they will be mentors, and will provide the employability in my company, wherever they wanted to work with this. So we trying to make more diversity, not inside company, but outside the company. At my colleague, I think from forget your name, sir. And they said about the impact society. So working with completely less impact society, because a skilling will be successful when they got employability. When the earning will come to home, then only family will be happy with this. So we are working with completely skill development for the women, especially from the tribal community, and they will be come into workforce. And for that, we got this award. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. In fact, anybody who wants HR awards globally should partner with Y4D. So Praful, one of the brownie points for everyone. HR and manufacturing sustainability. Sir works with a company which is into manufacturing, and manufacturing is a very, very difficult ball game. Of course, HR has to handle right from union labor problems to a lot of things. So my question is that what has been your experience of connecting these two different disciplines, right from HR to maybe sustainability in the manufacturing?
We always talk in industry. Three things are important, right? We talk about the people, then we talk about the process, and then we talk about the products. If three things to work together, then only company can be profitable company for futures. And for that, HR as a business partners, we play a very different role. The time has gone, what HR was doing some 25 years ago is completely different role. We need to work as a business partners. So me as HR, I must be understand my business, but same time I must be keep the people factor into my heart, right? So when I work with the social work CSR I'm not doing for charity. It's not doing doing something great from company. It's my responsibility. So I took completely ownership to develop my people, and when with the HR, went to completely business ownership of my stakeholders. Someone just now said about my my customers, about my employees, and when three stakeholders you work together, you can make a fantastic symphony between with this, and that's the key contribution from this. I just want to tell you one thing, Dr. Pillai, because you are from Bombay, and I'm also from same city, Bombay. Now is Mumbai, and Bombay was one of the Manchester of the world. The Girni Kamgar industry was completely started in Bombay, and today's Mumbai is completely a jobless city for the unskilled workforce. Almost all the community which work into Girni Kamgar, they completely scatters. And when we study why they scatter, there are so many reasons. But main reason why they scatter, because of the skills and affordability. So today we have to create the employability in such a way that every employee can be a cost proposition and they can be profitable to the business. Like, we always talk about a man versus man, right? From last, because first हमारा job तो था skill, वो hunting था. इंसान को अपने जिंदगी में hunting करना था, and he was fighting with the man versus man. Even today also we are fighting man versus man in many community. But today is not man versus man. Today is man versus machine. So now we are fighting with the technology, right? So if you want to gear with technology, we need to upgrade the skill. And that is, key focus that we want every employee to be a skilled workforce, and they must be, futures, the talent for the industry, and that's, they are working for that.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, I remember one of my interactions with an HR person. He said today company's success is not only known by profits. It is actually measured by 3 P's. Profits definitely chahiye, paisa chahiye na. But second is people. People have to be happy. And the third is planet. You can't leave this world just, because you got money, you can't leave it bad. So I'm sure all the HR fraternity sitting over here know this. But I have a specific last question for you before we move to the audience. And of course, sir is there. Friends, if you look at one of the key KRAs for HR department is called talent management. And we had a cup of coffee before we came in. So how do you balance maybe a talent management with social impact, which is also expected from you?
I think, it's a very, very good question. Because talent is required for every industry, right? Without, now everybody say about talent scarcity, talent nahi hai, log nahi mil rahe, skill nahi mil rahe. At the same time, we are saying, we are the highest population on the earth, right? We are the, China, हमने cross कर दिया, and we are 142, billions people, 1.4 billion people working there in India, and we are the youngest country on the earth, right? आपको पता होगा कि हमारी देश की average age जो है 29 age years. That means we are youngest on this earth, and like Dr. Abhay said very clearly, we want to go for Vikasit Bharat. So now our 50% population less than 35 age. 35 years. That means next 25 years by 2047, these people will be work for the, for the trade, maybe industry or service sectors. So it's our job to develop everybody, right? So when me as a HR, today I see a very different kind of business because technology is changing every day. So we must be, digitalized, mindset-based employee into company, not only from the white collar but blue collar also. So even every blue collar workforce, we allowed them to go for diploma. And diploma engineers, we forcefully ask them to go for the degree, BTech. And who are the employee working with me, we forcefully ask them to go to the business schools. So we completely go with the unlearn, learn and learns. So we want to completely develop this scalability. One point, because this is a conclave on these NGO partners. So in India we have around 42 crores people. They are under age of 29, right? And 40%, I say 50% less than 35 years. But out of that, we have only 3.8% people, skilled people in the country. That means only around 2 crores, 10 lakhs and 7,068 employees are skilled people, which is on LinkedIn. Yeah, this available business. That means India got 40 crores people we need to train into future with this. And for that will be a job of, corporate colleagues who are sitting here, that we need to connect with the NGO partners. It is not required, we should go to NGO, should be come to my premises. Me as a corporate, we must be go to the proper, right, NGOs, because NGO into market, there are so many NGOs, they come and they close and they come and close, we don't know when they start the business. Yeah, but we need to find right NGO. We need right to find right balance. What exactly company wanted to go, what is your focus for company for this? My company focus is very clear, we want to go for the skilling. Skilling, and second, my focus for the women empowerment. So we are working with this, and industry we are working because it's my need. Like you said, if you want to earn profit, you must be a technology-driven company. There is no option with this. But if you want to the planet, we need to work with the society, because society is 65% of our youth coming from the rural areas, and they are part of ecosystem. You cannot be ignored the rural population, and for that we need to work with the skilling for their initiative. So that is my point to say here.
So you have the best partner here, Y4D. हम skill का काम करने वाले. In fact, I remember Prime Minister also having this vision. We should be the talent capital of the world, not just the technology capital of the world. So we should be actually providing skilled, I would say, employees or talent to the world. India, definitely we have to solve our talent problem, but globally. In fact, अभी एक हमारे जो व्यक्ति है श्याम जी, he is a real life hero. पद्मश्री तो है ही, but first time I met him, actually we were sharing a dais with अक्षय कुमार. And उन्होंने कहा कि अगला कोई फिल्म करूँगा तो इनका रोल करूँगा. But the work he has done in the rural impact is actually impactful. तो हम लोग सब कोट वोट डाल के, हम लोग मतलब मैं बातें करते ये काम करते हैं. तो सबसे पहले आप इतने सब इम्पैक्टफुल काम कर रहे हैं. एक हम देखते हैं जब चर्चा करते हैं तो इंडिया वर्सेस भारत, तो एक बहुत बड़ा जो हम रूरल प्रॉब्लम देखते हुए माइग्रेशन का, जो गांव से शहर आ रहे हैं, और शहर में भी जैसे बॉम्बे बोलो, पूना बोलो, हैदराबाद बोलो, बैंगलोर बोलो, सब जगह पे लोगों की जो माइग्रेशन हो रही है, भीड़ जो हो रही है, दैट्स एक्चुअली क्रिएटिंग अ प्रॉब्लम, a social impact negatively in the cities. Environment problem हो रहा है, बैंगलोर में पानी का प्रॉब्लम दिख रहा है. So आपकी क्या सोच है कि ये जो गांव से माइग्रेशन हो रहा है, इसके ऊपर आपके क्या विचार है?
देखिए, मैं ये मानता हूँ कि सरकारों को आने वाले समय में गाँवों की तरफ लोगों को ले जाने के लिए गाँव बसाओ अभियान चलाना पड़ेगा. और ये बहुत बड़ी समस्या गाँवों में हो रही है कि गाँव के लोग शहरों की तरफ भाग रहे हैं, और शहरों में जो जनसंख्या बढ़ रही है, ट्रैफिक की समस्या बढ़ रही है, ये बहुत बड़ी चिंता का विषय है. और बहुत बड़े प्लेटफॉर्म पर बैठने का अवसर मिलता है नीति आयोग और दूसरे लोगों के सामने, तब ये बात हम रखते भी हैं. ये समस्या तब खत्म होगी जब गांव के लोगों को अच्छी शिक्षा और अच्छा रोजगार मिलेगा. तो इसकी तरफ सरकारें भी कोशिश कर रही है, पर सरकारें और सरकारी एजेंसियां उस पर सही तरीके से काम नहीं कर पा रही हैं. जैसे भी वाटर सेट की बात चली, तो मैंने ऐसे वाटर सेट देखे जो 7-7, 8-8 करोड़ खर्च होने के बाद भी जब गांव को और ग्राम पंचायतों को हैंड ओवर किया, तो वहाँ 7 या 70 या 80 पौधे भी नहीं मिले. तो जो सरकारी एजेंसियां जो काम नहीं कर पा रही है वो फिर एनजीओ को दिया जा रहा है, और फिर ऐसे एनजीओ जो Y4D है, ऐसे एनजीओ गाँव में इसके बड़े असर दिखा रहे हैं, और इनके माध्यम से गाँव में काम होना चाहिए, इसका असर दिख रहा है।
श्याम जी, मुझे याद है आपने डॉक्टर अब्दुल कलाम जी, उनका एक प्रोजेक्ट था, आई वुड से इट्स मोर लाइक ए कंसेप्ट, उसे कहा गया था पूरा PURA, शायद आपने सुना होगा, प्रोवाइडिंग अर्बन एम्यूनिटीज इन रूरल एरियाज। तो आपको अब गांव में, बहुत सारे गांव में काम करते हैं, अपने भी गांव में काम करते हैं, पेड़ों के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, तो ऐसी क्या एक दो चीज़ आपको लगता है कि गांव में हम लोग अगर एम्यूनिटीज़ दे दें या कोई ऐसी सुविधा दे दे जिसके वजह से लोगों का जो माइग्रेशन कम हो सकता है?
गांव में रोजगार पूरक शिक्षा अगर दी जाती है तो फिर गांव के लोग गांव में रुकेंगे। और गांव में अब बहुत बड़ी कई तरह की समस्याएं आ रही है कि एक धरातल से उठाकर किसी बच्चे को अगर बहुत बड़े लोगों के बीच में बिठा देंगे तो उसका असर नहीं दिखेगा। गांव में जो रोजगार कैसे हो, जैसे अच्छा पशुपालन हो, पानी की व्यवस्था हो, वहाँ पर अच्छी एग्रीकल्चर का काम हो, हॉर्टिकल्चर का काम हो, और ये काम हम लोग लंबे समय से कर रहे हैं। मैं एक ऐसे गाँव से आता हूँ जहाँ पर हम लोगों ने बेटी, पानी और पेड़ों को जोड़कर काम किया। ऐसा गांव है जहाँ पर विश्व का सबसे बड़ा संगमरमर का खनन कार्य होता है और जहाँ पर गिनीज बुक ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड में उस गांव का नाम है। और पानी बिल्कुल सूख गया, बिल्कुल पानी नहीं है पीने के लिए, टैंकरों से पानी आता है। वहाँ पर बच्चियों की संख्या 47% के आसपास हो गई। वहाँ पर एक भी पेड़ नहीं, पर हमने सरकार की विभिन्न योजनाओं को, ये गाँव में सरपंच रहते हुए आज वहाँ का पानी 10 फीट 8 फीट पर मिलता है। वहाँ पर हर व्यक्ति के नाम पर बड़ी संख्या में पेड़ है। लगभग हमारे गांव में 30 लाख के आसपास पेड़ है और लाखों चंदन के पेड़ हैं। और उसके आधारित लोगों को रोज़गार, बांस के फर्नीचर, बांस के उद्योग लगाकर लोगों को रोज़गार देना, आंवले से लोगों को रोज़गार देना, एलोवेरा से देना, और यहाँ तक कि हमारा किसान 10,000 रुपये क्विंटल गेहूँ बेच रहा है। तो ये कैसे हुआ? सरकार की विभिन्न योजनाओं को हम लोगों ने लोगों को रोज़गार से जोड़कर काम किया है। और वो आज उस गांव के में काम करने की वजह से मुझे पद्मश्री मिल गया, मुझे Y4D ने, अक्षय कुमार और महाराष्ट्र के मुख्यमंत्री जी, और फिर ऐसा हमारा कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग का, हमारे हौसला बढ़ाने का काम किया है कि हम इस काम को और आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। और राजस्थान नहीं, पूरे देश की सैकड़ों ग्राम पंचायतें उससे सीखकर अपने अपने क्षेत्र में काम कर रही है। और राजस्थान की मुख्यमंत्री ने वहाँ पर एक ऐसा ट्रेनिंग सेंटर खोल दिया गांव के बीच में, जहाँ पर एडिशनल डायरेक्टर, 2 SC, 2 एक्सियन और बड़ी संख्या में अधिकारी बैठकर पूरे देश के लोगों को सिखा रहे हैं कि लोगों को रोज़गार कैसे मिले, ग्राम स्तर पर रोज़गार कैसे मिले, गांव के लोग शहरों की तरफ नहीं जाए, शहरों के लोग वापस गांव में आकर बसे।
You know, my observation and experience has been that skilling people in rural areas is not good enough. Because you know there is no opportunity after skilling, so they not just move from a village to a city or a town within the state, but they actually move state to state. And many a times what happens is they aren't able to sustain their living with the salary that they get. Initially they start, they abandon that and go back to the village. So the investment that you made on skilling them goes waste, right? And if you did a return on social investment calculation, in fact you get a negative for people moving from a place.
थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बोलेंगे तो मेरी भी समझ।
हाँ, नहीं, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि गांव से सिर्फ शहर नहीं जाते हैं, स्टेट से स्टेट भी जाते हैं, क्योंकि स्किल करके छोड़ देने से फ़ायदा नहीं है, उनको फिर नौकरी भी दिलाना है, राइट? और जब हम सोशल ऑडिट करते हैं और फिर बाद में उसका इम्पैक्ट असेस करते हैं, उसमें हमको नेगेटिव मिलता है क्योंकि वो लोग स्टेट छोड़ के चले गए हैं। हमारा जो CSR कहता है कि जहाँ पे आप स्किल किए हैं वहीं पे उनको रोज़गार मिले। तो ये जो प्रॉब्लम है ऑफ सिटीज़ लाइक पूना एंड बैंगलोर एंड मुंबई बर्स्टिंग इटसेल्फ, ये नहीं होएगा, करेक्ट? तो मेरे विचार से वी शुड, हो सके तो, कहना आसान है, सिटी को वर्टिकली नहीं ग्रो करना चाहिए, हॉरिजॉन्टली ग्रो करना चाहिए। जैसे बेंगलोर के बाजू में रामनगरम है, उसको डेवलप करो, राइट? जैसे यहाँ पे बॉम्बे के बाजू में नासिक है, औरंगाबाद है, या कोई और शहर है, उसको डेवलप करना चाहिए। अब सबको बॉम्बे में ही रहना है और बॉम्बे में ही बिजनेस करना है, बेंगलोर में ही रहना है, ये नहीं हो सकता है, ये तो फटेगा ही, और फट चुका है, राइट? That is why, and I don't know how many of you read paper or saw the TV, 4 days back when it rained in Bangalore, the elevated highway that connects the electronic city and the main city was flooded, and there were 3,000 people stranded in the middle of the night. They abandoned their cars and started walking towards their homes. And then it took probably about 5 hours or 6 hours for the traffic to get cleared. Now that is the situation. आप कितना भी कुछ भी कर लो, you can't develop that city anymore. हाँ, रोड को अच्छा बना सकते हैं, but उससे ज़्यादा आप उसको चौड़ा तो नहीं बना सकते. So I think, the important thing is for the government to realize and saturate a city and tell people who wants to do business to go to the neighboring city and no more licenses to be given there.
ये बहुत अच्छा आपने बताया, क्योंकि जो शहर और ग्राम वाला, इसका एक सोल्यूशन चाणक्य ने भी दिया था. लेकिन वो बता के मैं आपको आखिरी प्रश्न पूछूंगा, फिर आई विल ओपन फॉर क्वेश्चंस. जो चाणक्य का इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट मॉडल था, जिसे उस ज़माने में भारत सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी थी, सोने की चिड़िया थी, वो कहते हैं 2 चीज़ पैरेलली एग्जिस्ट होती है, होगी हमेशा हर जनरेशन में. एक है ग्राम और एक है शहर. वी हैव टू हैव बैलेंस. उस ज़माने में आप देखोगे इट वॉज मोर ए रूरल इकोनॉमी, ऑफ कोर्स इट इज़ ऑल्सो ग्रो नगर. लेकिन आपसे जो प्रश्न है कि एक चीज़ मैंने पढ़ा था एक किताब में, व्हाट इज़ द डिफरेंस बिटवीन ए विलेज एंड ए सिटी. इन ए विलेज द फर्स्ट पर्सन नोज द लास्ट पर्सन. एक गांव में पहला जो व्यक्ति होता है आखिरी व्यक्ति को जानता है. एंड इन ए सिटी द फर्स्ट पर्सन मे नॉट इवन नो द नेक्स्ट पर्सन. क्योंकि हमने कितनी सारी कहानी सुनते हैं कि अपने बगल के घर में कोई बुजुर्ग चले गए और 10 दिन के बाद जब वो फाउल स्मेल आता है तब पता चला. सो मेरा प्रश्न अभी थोड़ा अलग होगा, क्योंकि हम अभी क्लाइमेट से लेकर एनवायरनमेंट, सोशल कल्चर की बात किए. आप एक ऐसी बात बताएं कि गाँव में जो सोशल सिस्टम होता है, जो समाज की व्यवस्था होती है, और जैसे आपने पेड़ जब लगाए, वो सिर्फ मेरी बेटी की बात नहीं थी, तो वहाँ पे ऐसी क्या बात है जिसकी वजह से गांधी जी भी कहते थे कि इंडिया लिव्स इन विलेजेस. जो पहली बार आए थे साउथ अफ्रीका से, तो उनके गुरु ने कहा था उनको, पहले गाँव घूमो, देश देखो. तो ऐसी क्या बात है, मे बी 1 और 2 पॉइंट्स, जो गांव में जो वो से इमोशनल जो सिस्टम होता है वो क्या होता है?
देखिए, गांव में महात्मा गांधी के जो ग्राम स्वराज की कल्पना है, वो साकार करने के लिए गांव के हर व्यक्ति की समस्या को समझना पड़ेगा, उसकी सोच को समझना पड़ेगा. और हम लोगों ने उस पर काम किया है. हमने छोटे छोटे विषय पर काम किया है कि एक ऐसा गांव जो बेटियों के जन्म पर पेड़ लगाता और खुशियाँ मनाता, और सिर्फ इतना सा काम किया कि इस गाँव में जो भी लड़की पैदा होगी उसके नाम पर इतने पेड़ लगाएंगे कि धरती सरसब्ज हो जाएगी. और हर बेटी के नाम पर 111 पेड़ लगाना, हर बेटी के नाम पर गांव वालों से पैसा इकट्ठा करके उस बेटी के नाम पर फिक्स डिपॉजिट करना, सुकन्या समृद्धि योजना से जोड़ना. हमारी ज़मीनें सरसब्ज हो गई, इतने पेड़ लग गए कि उसको देखने के लिए दुनिया भर के लोग आते हैं. और गांव की बेटियां 53% हो गई. तो समस्या कौन सी है उसको समझना पड़ेगा. किसी घर में बेटी का जन्म नहीं हो रहा है तो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, उसके पीछे क्या कारण है, उसकी सोच तक जाना पड़ेगा. कि बेटी पराया धन है, बेटी की शादी में खर्चा होगा, बेटी की शिक्षा में खर्च हो जाएगा, और फिर बेटी चली जाएगी दूसरे के घर. नहीं, बेटी हमारी है, हम बेटी के जन्मते उसके नाम पर कुछ कर दें. तो इस तरह के प्रयोग हम लोगों ने वहाँ पर किए हैं.
थैंक यू. ईच ऑफ देम हैज़ गिवन लॉट ऑफ फूड फॉर थॉट. बाद में ड्यूरिंग फूड फॉर द स्टमक बात कर लीजिएगा. समय की मर्यादा रखते हुए मुझे अभी यहाँ पे रोकना पड़ेगा. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ऑल द पैनल.